Hello and welcome to another episode of the Red Delta Project podcast, where we teach you how to maximize your results with minimalist fitness strategies. My name is Matt Schifferly, founder of the Red Delta Project, author of several books including Grind Style Calisthenics and Smart Bodyweight Training. Today we're talking about a topic that gets thrown around a little bit here and there. You may have heard this phrase of stimulate, don't annihilate, or stimulation versus annihilation, which it kind of sounds like fortune cookie advice, as I'm always calling it, but it really is one of those things that can literally save your training career and make all the difference in the world between either you being frustrated with your workouts or getting great results from your workouts. I don't know who originally coined this term. It's often credited to Lee Haney, who is a big time, of course, bodybuilder and stuff. And a lot of times people would show examples or talk about examples of Lee Haney where everybody in the gym would be like benching huge weights and Lee would be there in the corner benching 185, which for a world-class bodybuilder may not seem like a whole lot, but he's getting much more out of it because he was always a big fan of stimulate, don't annihilate. And it's very important, especially now, because I feel like the trend in our fitness culture has been to be more reliant on this annihilation style of training versus stimulus and trying to make it more productive in our hard work. The basic way to look at this is that annihilation style training is when we're basically training and we're trying to work the body into the ground. We're trying to make ourselves really tired and really fatigued. So we're running until we're terribly hot and sweaty. We're lifting until we can barely lift up our arms. We always talk about like, oh, it's a good workout when you can't lift your arms and you gotta like bend over in order to shampoo your hair and things like that, and you're crawling out of the gym. That's the annihilation approach, where we're trying to basically just create a lot of stress and fatigue in the body. The stimulation approach is more of a smart way of going about it. A stimulus means that you're trying to apply your work in a specific productive way. It's not about, I'm just going to work myself to death. It's saying, what exactly do we need to make this happen? And then how do we do that in the most effective way possible? And whatever stimulus or whatever amount of workload that takes, and whatever fatigue that results in, that's what it results in. But it's not chasing after fatigue and muscle soreness or anything like that. It's actually trying to make the workout technically more productive in a very specific way. One of the reasons why stimulate versus annihilate is so important is because the annihilation approach is basically saying, let's just stress ourselves out. Let's stress out the mind and stress out the body and work harder and harder and harder and harder and hope that results in a good result. But the reason why that doesn't work very well is because you can't scale stress. You can't scale hard work, because all this is the expenditure of resources. You're spending energy, you're spending time, you're spending physical and mental discipline and energy, just making yourself work hard. And it's really easy to get stuck into this idea, because when you start training, you're going from nothing to something. And that requires some effort and hard work, and you're naturally going to get some sort of result from going from nothing to something. So you start thinking, great, I applied some hard work, I'm starting to get some results. More hard work, more results. That happens for maybe several months, maybe even a few years, and you think, well, that's the answer. More hard work. Stress is what changes the body, right? It's all about pushing yourself as hard as possible. No pain, no gain, all that sort of thing. Which does work for a short period of time. But after several months or several years, eventually you hit a wall, because you just can't push yourself beyond what you've got. You can't spend time and energy and effort you don't have. Plus, don't forget that life itself requires those resources. It'd be great if we all had all the time and energy and money in the world, and we thought, I'm gonna get in shape because I've got all of these resources. But almost nobody's like that. If anything, most of us are coming into the world of fitness saying, I've got that much time and energy at my disposal. How do I do it? And then what unfortunately happens is we're so limited in how much you can do that it doesn't take much to work hard. it doesn't take much to overload your system because you're already burning the candle at both ends. So a workout, even a short workout, or even modest efforts in diet and exercise feel like they're a whole lot of work. And because we're trying to basically get results by working ourselves to death, it feels like we're really pushing ourselves with even a moderate or even a small amount of work. So it feels like we should be getting further than we really are. We're not losing the weight, we're not building the muscle, we're not doing what we want, but we're working so incredibly hard. And the reason why it feels so hard isn't because you're actually working hard, it's because you're already short on time and energy and effort and all these other things. So even the smallest amount isn't going to be very productive, but it's going to feel like it should be, which is why motivation tanks, which is why you get frustrated, which is why it feels like you're spending a lot, but you're getting very little back. That's why the stimulus approach is so much more viable. Now you've got to know what you're doing for stimulus. One of the reasons why hard work than the annihilation approach is so tempting is because you don't need to know what you're doing. And this is one of the things that I've recognized over time is one of the signs of either an incompetent athlete or an incompetent coach, is someone who over relies on the annihilation approach. I used to have a basketball coach years ago who wasn't a very good coach. So we'd like huddle up, halfway through the game, and he's like, all right, gang, we got to give 110%. You got to dig deep, and you got to want it, and you got to really give it all hell, and you got to go out there and push yourselves and go all out. We'd be like, yeah, all right. And we'd go out there, and I'd tell my friend, I'm like, so what are we doing? He's like, damned if I just run faster, I guess. I don't know. Because it sounds great. It makes for great motivational tiles on social media and stuff, but it doesn't actually tell you how to do anything. But then the next year I had a different coach who had a stimulate approach, and we'd huddle up and he's like, all right guys, here's the deal. Matt, you're getting caught on your heels every single time you get a rebound. So stay on the balls of your feet. I don't want your heels touching the floor. Just stay on the balls of your feet. Jim, over there, every time that guy deets left, he's getting faked out and he goes right. So just kind of stay on your ground and be patient. Don't move so fast. And also we're leaving the paint wide open. So Jim, I need you to stay in the paint and be able to get those rebounds. We'd go out there and do those things and we'd actually be better. Because he wasn't saying just work harder. He wasn't saying you got to give 110% kind of thing. It's like, we're all ready. Work harder. Gee, what do you think we were doing already, right? He was saying, all right, here's how you're going to apply your work. Here's how you're going to specifically work on this exact thing. Definitive, clear instructions. And that's what the stimulate approach is all about, is you go into the gym or your workouts and you say, this is exactly what I'm trying to tell my body what to do. I'm not just gonna work hard and hope for the best. I'm not gonna take my fatigue and muscle soreness and sweat as a sign that I actually accomplished something. I'm going to look at, say, what am I trying to do in this workout? Am I trying to use my hips better? Am I trying to be more stable in my shoulders? Am I trying to get more scapular movement during my push-ups? Am I not getting enough range of motion in my pull-ups? Am I trying to get one more repetition on my hanging leg raise? Whatever it is, it's a specific metric of performance that relates to your result. And then you're chasing after performance, not fatigue, because you want to train your body. I know this is what you can do, body, but I need you to step it up and do it 1% better. And of course, that's the $1 million question of how do I do that? How do I know what that is? And that's where coaching comes into play. That's where keeping a workout log comes into play, because you want to analyze in your mind, say, all right, this is what I did. Take a few moments to think, so how can I do those push-ups better? How can I progress them? More reps, better technique. Think about it a little bit and say, okay, I was kind of sloppy on those last few repetitions. My back was arching on the way up, so I write down, try to maintain a straight back for all reps, okay? So then when you go into your workout, you have it written down, you're like, oh yeah, I was sloppy on the push-up. Okay, so now, when you go into your workout, you have something to work on, specifically, and that's where your stimulus is going to come from. It's when your brain is giving specific instructions to your body. This is exactly what I need you to do. And sure, you're probably going to get some muscle soreness and stuff from that sort of thing. But the reason why it works is because you're now trying to stimulate performance to the level of whatever you're trying to accomplish. Your performance is better, time under tension, or you're just burning some more fat and calories. Said, tut, ice. That's the three aspects of tension application that I talk about in smart bodyweight training. If you are creating more time under tension, that's a stimulus for strength and muscle growth. If you're creating more of the specific functional demand for whatever functional capacity you're trying to do, that's your stimulus for functional performance. And if you're creating a stimulus for burning calories, you're just doing it more work, then yes, you're burning more calories and fat. Granted, that one tends to err a little bit more onto the annihilation side, because this one really is, to some degree, more about work more or work harder sort of thing. But you still want to be aware of the functional ability for how you're doing it. You could go on a 50-mile bike ride, but you could say, what's my position on the bike like? What's my pedal stroke like? How am I using my hips? How's my breathing? All of these other sorts of things, so that way you can put more power to the pedal and burn more calories. And possibly the biggest reason for a stimulus versus annihilation style approach of training is stimulation gives you more of a feedback on you're making progress. Annihilation style is just, well, how hard do you feel you worked? Did you work hard enough? And just hoping that's going to pan out in the end. It's like being lost and just driving around a whole lot and burning gas and just hoping you end up at your destination. But assuming that you're going to do there just because you're working really hard. Stimulus says, this is your destination, this is where you are, this is the direction you need to head in. You can make 3 steps forward, good, you're closer to your destination. And it doesn't take an all-out effort. You can save time, you can save energy, you can save other resources, because you can go into your workout and say, I did 3 sets of push-ups and they improved because of bigger range of motion or more scapular stability, whatever, right? And you can leave the workout saying, I worked hard, I made progress, I improved what I needed to improve, but I didn't feel the need to push myself to my absolute limit. I'm leaving a little bit in the tank. That helps with motivation, it helps with recovery, it helps prevent burnout, it helps prevent injury, it helps to prevent yourself from just trying to push yourself into oblivion, which basically beats up on mental, emotional, physical systems, and it prevents you from also getting burned out, because burnout happens when you're just exhausting yourself all the time. And sometimes, sure, your workouts are going to be very hard and exhausting. They're going to be a lot of work, but they don't have to be. And they're not necessarily effective just because they're a lot of hard work. You want to be specific on what you're trying to accomplish in your workouts from a performance standpoint. And once you know that, you're going to be surprised at how little it takes and how simple it is to keep making forward progress without having to drive yourself into the ground all the time. So I hope you found today's episode enlightening. Please let me know thoughts, comments, and questions down below. One of the best ways that you can produce a greater level of stimulus is to train smarter, which you can do through my books. You can find it down below in the description, or just search Red Delta Project on Amazon.com. Thank you very much for listening. I appreciate it as always, and I'll talk to you next week. Till then, be fit, live free.